The fields were silent before the world noticed them. Long rows of grapes stretched beneath the California sun, heavy with fruit that would soon sit on dinner tables across America. But behind the sweetness of that fruit was a bitterness few consumers ever saw, a story of exhaustion, poverty, and invisible suffering. Today, we uncover the life of one man who transformed those silent fields into a battleground for dignity, justice, and human rights. Welcome to Historiopulse, the channel where history doesn't just live in books. It breathes, struggles, and inspires. Today's story is about Cesar Chavez, a man who never carried a gun, never led an army, and never sought fame, yet changed the lives of millions using nothing but faith, discipline, sacrifice, and unbreakable determination. This is not simply the story of a labor leader. This is the story of a migrant child who slept under bridges, who watched his parents lose their land, who labored from sunrise to sunset for pennies, and who grew into one of the most influential civil rights figures in American history. It is the story of how dignity became louder than fear, how hunger strikes became stronger than violence, and how a whisper from the fields became a roar across the nation. Cesar Estrada Chavez was born on March 31, 1927, near Yuma, Arizona, in a small adobe house surrounded by farmland. His family was Mexican-American, hardworking, proud, and deeply rooted in their community. His parents owned a small farm and grocery store, and life, while modest, was stable. They were not wealthy, but they were independent. They worked their own land, fed their children, and lived with dignity. But then the Great Depression arrived like a slow-moving storm. Crops failed. Businesses collapsed. Banks foreclosed on properties. And one by one, families like the Chavez family lost everything they had worked for. Cesar's father lost their land after an unfair legal battle, and the family was suddenly forced into the same life as thousands of others, migrant farm labor. They packed what little they had and joined the endless caravan of families heading west toward California, chasing rumors of work in the fertile valleys. But what they found was not opportunity, it was exploitation. Families lived in tents, barns, and shacks. Children worked beside their parents. There was no job security, no health care, no legal protection, and almost no voice. Cesar was just a boy, but he understood suffering early. He watched his parents labor until their backs bent. He watched his mother ration food so the children could eat. He learned what it meant to be hungry, tired, and invisible. And perhaps most painfully, he learned what it felt like to be unwanted. In school, Cesar faced discrimination and humiliation. Teachers punished him for speaking Spanish. Some even forced him to write lines or stand in corners as punishment for using his native language. He attended more than 30 schools during his childhood because his family moved constantly in search of work. Every move meant new classmates, new teachers, new ridicule, and no sense of belonging. Eventually, at the age of 14, Cesar dropped out of school to work full-time in the fields. His education ended not because he lacked intelligence, but because poverty demanded labor. His classroom became the soil beneath his fingernails. His textbooks became grapevines, lettuce rows, and cotton stalks. He learned through pain, repetition, and endurance. Yet something else grew inside him during those years, a quiet awareness that the suffering he saw was not natural, not inevitable, and not acceptable. Farm workers were not poor because they were lazy. They were poor because the system demanded they remain poor. They were not voiceless because they had nothing to say. They were voiceless because no one allowed them to speak. Still, young Cesar did not yet imagine himself as a leader. He was shy, soft-spoken, and deeply introspective. He rarely sought attention and often avoided confrontation. But life would shape him in ways he could not yet see. In 1944, during World War II, Cesar joined the U.S. Navy. He hoped military service would give him direction, stability, and perhaps opportunity. But instead, he encountered more of the same: rigid discipline, isolation, and injustice. He served for 2 years, but later described the experience as one of the most difficult periods of his life. He felt out of place and disconnected, longing to return home. After leaving the Navy, Cesar returned to farm work in California. He married Helen Fabella, a strong, compassionate woman who would become his lifelong partner and greatest supporter. Together, they raised 8 children, not in comfort, but in purpose. Their home became a place of organizing, discussion, and sacrifice. It was during this period that Cesar encountered a man who would change the course of his life: Fred Ross, a community organizer working for the Community Service Organization, or CSO. Ross believed in empowering marginalized communities through grassroots organization rather than top-down leadership. He believed people must be taught not just to protest, but to vote, to negotiate, and to demand rights. Ross saw something special in Cesar, not loud charisma, but quiet credibility. Farm workers trusted Cesar because he was one of them. He spoke their language. He shared their pain. He understood their struggles not as theory, but as lived experience. Ross recruited him, trained him, and mentored him. For the first time, Cesar began organizing farm workers not around anger, but around hope. He helped people register to vote, fight discrimination, and gain access to public services. He knocked on doors. He listened to stories. He helped families navigate bureaucracy. And slowly, he learned the mechanics of change: patience, persistence, strategy, and discipline. But as powerful as CSO's work was, Cesar grew frustrated. The organization focused primarily on urban issues, while migrant farm workers, the poorest and most exploited group, remained outside its reach. He believed they needed something more radical, something built specifically for them. In 1962, Cesar and Helen made a decision that shocked many around them. They left their stable CSO positions and moved to Delano, California, a small agricultural town in the San Joaquin Valley with almost no money, no office, no staff, and no guarantee of success. They lived in a tiny house, often without furniture. Their children slept on the floor. Their refrigerator was frequently empty. But Cesar believed something powerful. Real change could only come from within the community itself. He didn't want farm workers to be helped. He wanted them to lead. That year, Cesar founded the National Farm Workers Association, or NFWA. It was not yet a union, it was a movement. Members paid small monthly dues, attended meetings, and discussed not just wages, but dignity, respect, and human rights. Cesar emphasized discipline, nonviolence, and moral purpose. He did not want chaos. He wanted conscience. At first, progress was slow. Many farm workers were afraid. Growers controlled housing, employment, and access to food. Speaking out meant blacklisting, eviction, and starvation. Immigration status added another layer of fear. Organizing was dangerous, but Cesar was patient. He visited labor camps. He sat in kitchens. He spoke in churches. He told people they deserved contracts, bathrooms in the fields, clean drinking water, rest breaks, medical care, and protection from toxic pesticides. He told them their children deserved education instead of exhaustion. And most importantly, he told them they deserved dignity. Then, in September 1965, something historic happened. Filipino grape workers in Delano, led by Lariat Leong and the Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee, went on strike after growers refused to raise wages. Cesar and his organization faced a decision: remain cautious or join the fight. After intense discussion and voting among NFWA members, they voted to strike in solidarity. That moment changed American labor history forever. The Delano grape strike was not just about money. It was about humanity. Workers walked off fields knowing they might never work again. Families sacrificed income. Children skipped meals. Rent went unpaid. But something deeper replaced pride. Cesar insisted on nonviolence even when provoked. Growers hired strikebreakers. Sheriffs arrested workers. Vigilantes harassed picketers. Some union members were beaten. Yet Cesar demanded restraint. He believed violence would destroy their moral authority and public support. Instead, he turned to a weapon far more powerful than fists: the boycott. Cesar realized that growers could survive strikes by hiring replacement workers, but they could not survive if consumers stopped buying their grapes. So the movement expanded beyond fields into cities. Volunteers traveled across the country, urging shoppers to refuse non-union grapes. Churches, student groups, labor unions, and civil rights organizations joined the cause. What began as a local labor dispute became a national moral campaign. College students stood outside grocery stores with signs. Housewives returned grapes at checkout counters. Priests preached about farm worker justice from pulpits. Civil rights leaders endorsed the movement. The struggle of invisible workers suddenly became visible. But success came slowly and hardship grew heavier. By 1968, the strike had dragged on for 3 years. Families were exhausted. Hunger was real. Funds were scarce. Internal tensions threatened unity. Cesar felt the movement losing spiritual direction, and he feared desperation might lead to violence. So he made a decision that shocked even his closest allies. He began a fast, not for a day, not for a week, but indefinitely. Cesar declared a water-only fast to reaffirm his commitment to nonviolence and to purify the movement as spirit. He said the fast was not political, it was personal, moral, and spiritual. He believed sacrifice could restore discipline and focus. For 25 days, Cesar consumed only water. His weight dropped dangerously. Doctors warned his organs could fail. Friends begged him to stop. His wife feared she would lose him. Yet he persisted. Then, on the final day of the fast, something remarkable happened. Thousands gathered for a mass in Delano. Among them was Senator Robert F. Kennedy, who flew in personally to support Cesar and the farm workers. Kennedy stood beside him as Cesar ended his fast, symbolically breaking bread before the crowd. The image traveled across the nation, a fragile labor organizer beside one of America's most powerful political figures, united in the cause of justice. The fast worked. Public support surged. Donations increased. Volunteers flooded into Delano. Most importantly, the movement regained unity and discipline. And in 1970, after 5 years of struggle, sacrifice, arrests, hunger, and hope, grape growers finally signed contracts recognizing the union, now called the United Farm Workers, or UFW. The contracts included higher wages, health benefits, rest periods, protections against pesticides, and grievance procedures. For the first time in U.S. history, farm workers, among the most exploited laborers in the nation, had secured union contracts through nonviolent resistance. It was one of the greatest labor victories of the 20th century. But Cesar Chavez did not celebrate like a conqueror. He saw the victory not as an ending, but as a beginning. He knew power always tries to return. He knew rights, once won, must be defended continuously. And he knew growers would not surrender control easily. Throughout the 1970s, Cesar continued organizing. The UFW expanded to lettuce workers, grape workers, and other agricultural laborers across California and beyond. The movement pushed for laws protecting farm workers' right to organize, vote in union elections, and negotiate contracts without retaliation. But success came with new challenges. Internal conflicts emerged within the union. Some leaders questioned Cesar's management style. Others argued he was too controlling, too idealistic, or too resistant to compromise. Cesar, deeply committed to moral purity and discipline, struggled with delegation. He expected sacrifices from others similar to those he demanded of himself, and sometimes more than people could give. At the same time, growers launched aggressive counterattacks. They funded rival unions, filed lawsuits, pressured politicians, and worked tirelessly to weaken farm worker protections. Contracts expired, wages stagnated, membership declined. In 1975, California passed the Agricultural Labor Relations Act, the first law in the nation guaranteeing farm workers the right to organize and bargain collectively. It was a landmark achievement largely credited to the UFW's pressure campaigns. Yet even with legal protections, enforcement remained difficult. Elections were delayed. Employers intimidated workers. Court battles dragged on for years. Cesar found himself fighting not only growers, but also exhaustion, internal divisions, and a changing political climate. The 1980s brought further setbacks. Conservative policies weakened labor unions nationwide. Immigration enforcement intensified, making undocumented workers even more vulnerable to retaliation. Pesticide use increased, leading to widespread health problems among farm workers, including cancer, birth defects, and chronic illness. Cesar shifted his focus toward environmental justice and public health. He launched campaigns against harmful pesticides, especially those known to cause cancer. He argued that protecting farm workers' health was inseparable from protecting their dignity. He organized boycotts, protests, and public awareness campaigns, linking farm worker rights to consumer responsibility. In 1988, at the age of 61, Cesar began another fast, this time to protest pesticide poisoning and renew public attention to farm workers' suffering. Again, doctors warned his health was at risk. Again, supporters worried he might not survive. This fast lasted 36 days. Cesar emerged frail but resolute. Though immediate policy changes were limited, the fast reignited national discussion about farm workers' safety and environmental justice. Once again, his body became his message. Yet behind the public image of moral leadership, Cesar struggled privately. He battled chronic pain from back injuries, exhaustion from decades of organizing, and disappointment over setbacks within the movement. He lived modestly, often refusing salary increases, rejecting comfort, and working long hours even as his health declined. He did not see himself as a hero. He saw himself as a servant. He believed leadership meant sacrifice, not privilege. He believed power must be used sparingly, humbly, and always in service of the poor. And he believed movements succeed not through charisma alone, but through discipline, unity, and moral clarity. Cesar Chavez died in his sleep on April 23, 1993, at the age of 66 in San Luis, Arizona. He was visiting family and preparing to testify in a lawsuit defending the UFW. He passed away quietly, far from the spotlight, as he had lived, working, organizing, and serving. More than 50,000 people attended his funeral, one of the largest funerals for a labor leader in U.S. history. Farm workers marched alongside students, politicians, clergy, civil rights activists, and ordinary citizens whose lives he had touched. Many carried black eagle flags, the symbol of the UFW, representing dignity, sacrifice, and hope. President Bill Clinton later awarded Cesar Chavez the Presidential Medal of Freedom, America's highest civilian honor, recognizing his lifelong commitment to justice and nonviolence. Schools, streets, parks, and holidays were named in his honor. His story entered textbooks. His image appeared in murals. His name became synonymous with farm worker rights. But Cesar Chavez's legacy is not found in monuments alone. It lives in every labor contract protecting workers from exploitation. It lives in every consumer who asks where their food comes from. It lives in every immigrant worker who believes their voice matters. It lives in every peaceful protest that chooses discipline over destruction. It lives in every movement that understands dignity is not given, it is demanded. Yet to understand Cesar Chavez fully, we must look beyond victories and honors. We must understand the contradictions, complexities, and humanity of the man himself. Cesar was deeply religious, influenced by Catholic social teaching, particularly ideas about social justice, sacrifice, and service to the poor. He admired figures like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr., drawing inspiration from their commitment to nonviolence. He believed suffering could be redemptive, not as punishment, but as a catalyst for transformation. At times, this belief led him to push himself and others beyond healthy limits. Critics argued that his insistence on sacrifice sometimes alienated allies and weakened organizational effectiveness. Supporters argued that his moral rigor was precisely what gave the movement credibility and power. Both perspectives hold truth. Cesar was not perfect. He made mistakes. He sometimes mistrusted others too deeply. He sometimes struggled to adapt his leadership style as the movement grew larger and more complex. Yet what made him extraordinary was not flawlessness, it was consistency. For more than 30 years, he devoted his life to the poor without seeking wealth, fame, or comfort. He never lived in luxury. He never profited from his movement. He never abandoned his principles for political convenience. He believed justice demanded patience, discipline, and personal sacrifice, and he lived those beliefs daily. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Cesar Chavez's legacy is that he did not simply fight for wages. He fought for dignity. Before the UFW, farm workers had almost no legal protections. They lacked toilets in the fields. They drank from irrigation ditches contaminated with chemicals. They worked without rest breaks, without shade, without medical care. Children labored beside their parents. Women faced harassment and abuse. Injuries were common. Deaths were ignored. Farm workers were treated as disposable. Cesar challenged that reality by changing how society saw them. He insisted farm workers were not just laborers, they were parents, children, neighbors, citizens, and human beings deserving of respect. He reframed labor struggles not as economic disputes, but as moral crises. And he did it not through violence, but through conscience. In a world that often glorifies power, dominance, and speed, Cesar Chavez embraced patience, humility, and persistence. He believed movements grow slowly, like seeds planted in hard soil. He believed real change requires not only anger, but love. Love for people, love for justice, and love for humanity itself. He once said, "The fight is never about grapes or lettuce. It is always about people." That philosophy shaped everything he did. He organized not just workers, but communities. He built coalitions across race, religion, and class. He worked with Filipino organizers, African American civil rights leaders, Jewish activists, Catholic clergy, students, housewives, and union members. He believed justice movements must be inclusive to be sustainable, and he understood the power of symbolism. The Black Eagle flag became an icon of dignity. The Great Boycott became a national act of conscience. Hunger strikes became moral awakenings. Even walking long marches through California farmland became acts of resistance, turning exhaustion into visibility and pain into power. Cesar also understood storytelling. He knew people connect not through statistics, but through stories. He told stories of children collapsing in fields from heat exhaustion. He told stories of families evicted from labor camps. He told stories of workers poisoned by pesticides. He told stories of dignity lost and dignity regained. Those stories reshaped public perception. They transformed farm workers from invisible laborers into visible human beings. And once people saw them, they could no longer ignore them. Yet despite all his accomplishments, Cesar Chavez never claimed victory. He believed justice is not a destination, it is a journey. Every gain must be defended. Every right must be renewed. Every generation must fight its own battles. He warned against complacency, urging young people to remain vigilant, engaged, and compassionate. He once said, "Preservation of one's own culture does not require contempt or disrespect for other cultures." This belief guided his organizing, his alliances, and his worldview. He envisioned a society where dignity was universal, not selective, where justice was not reserved for citizens alone, but extended to all workers, regardless of race, language, or immigration status. In today's world, Cesar Chavez's legacy feels as relevant as ever. Millions of agricultural workers still labor under dangerous conditions. Many lack health care, legal protection, or living wages. Immigration policies continue to shape vulnerability. Food systems remain dependent on invisible labor. Environmental toxins continue to harm communities disproportionately. Yet his story reminds us that change is possible not through violence, hatred, or despair, but through discipline, solidarity, and moral courage. Cesar Chavez showed that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things when they refuse to accept injustice as normal. He showed that power does not always come from wealth, weapons, or status. Sometimes it comes from hunger, humility, and hope. He showed that leadership does not require shouting, sometimes it requires listening. He showed that movements do not begin with politicians, they begin with people. And he showed that dignity, once awakened, is unstoppable. To understand his life is to understand something deeper about American history itself, that progress is not inevitable, that rights are not gifts, and that justice is always unfinished. Before Cesar Chavez, Farm workers were excluded from most labor laws passed during the New Deal. They were intentionally left out of protections, such as minimum wage laws, overtime pay, collective bargaining rights, and workplace safety regulations, exclusions rooted in racism, classism, and political compromise. Caesar did not create these injustices, but he exposed them. And by exposing them, he forced the nation to confront them. He made Americans look at their food differently, not just as products on shelves, but as results of human labor. He asked consumers to consider who picked their grapes, who harvested their lettuce, who packed their strawberries. And he challenged them to choose whether convenience mattered more than conscience. That challenge remains today. Every banana, every tomato, every apple carries a story of hands that harvested it, of lives shaped by its production. Cesar Chavez taught us that ethical consumption is not about perfection, but awareness. Not about guilt, but responsibility. And he taught us that solidarity does not require sameness. You do not have to be a farm worker to fight for farm workers. You do not have to be poor to fight poverty. You do not have to suffer injustice to oppose it. You simply have to care and act. Cesar Chavez cared deeply, and he acted relentlessly. He once said, "Once social change begins, it cannot be reversed." You cannot uneducate the person who has learned to read. You cannot humiliate the person who feels pride.